Alright, all you super duper sumos out there, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din coming at you with another One Piece chapter review. This time it's chapter 936, titled Sumo Inferno, burn baby burn, Sumo Inferno! And I love this chapter page because of all people we would see together. It would be Wanze and Aokiji with a request by Misato, who requested Aokiji eating at Wanze's noodle stand but accidentally freezing his noodles, which that sucks. Like, if that were a side effect of having that kind of devil fruit where you just like you freeze everything you eat, it's just like that's great for like ice cream, keep that cold, but dude, when I want to have a nice piping hot bowl of ramen, I don't want to freeze it. Ugh, that is literally just the worst right there. But this chapter picks up proper where the last one left off, where we see that Raizo is confronting his fellow 9 red scabbards, Kawamatsu, who he basically fills in on the day of reckoning, you know, when they're going to launch their counterattack against Kaido and Orochi. And, you know, Kawamatsu fills Raizo in on, you know, how to free him and get him out, but he does say he was captured 13 years ago, so he was going strong for about 7 years before they finally caught his ass. But you know, he tells Raizo, yo, get the key, bust me out, and we will take these bastards down together. Unfortunately, the cart that Raizo was hiding behind, unfortunately, is moved out of the way, and he doesn't notice at first because he's so taken aback by seeing his old ally. And then, because he's in front of the, you know, the cell that should never be open, or anyone that should never be open, you know, guards notice him like quick, fast, and in a hurry, and he has to literally peace out immediately because he's also the key thief for the sewn handcuffs. So Raizo realizes immediately, ninja vanish, and just poof, he's gone. And I said it before and I'll say it again, Raizo is actually a surprisingly competent ninja. Like, this dude, he knows his stealth, and that's the most shocking thing about it. But then we cut over to Queen, Luffy, and Old Man Hio, where, you know, Queen, the ever flamboyant showman that he is, has set up a sumo stage that he calls that's called the Queen Contraption Concert Sumo Inferno. And so they outfit Luffy and Old Man Hio with these collars that, you know, actually if you fall out of the ring, it's like almost like if you've ever seen, of all things, Wild Wild West, where you have those you know, little neck braces that, you know, homed in with these slicing devices. Yeah, basically kind of like that, where it's just like it'll just slice your head clean off if you fall out of the ring. And Luffy even likens it to the celestial dragon necklaces that would explode if you know, got too far from your celestial dragons. So he's just like, Queen makes this very obvious that this is the most unfair match of all, because he'll have Luffy and Hio as a two-man team, and they will both be confronted by, you know, gifters, pleasures, you know, all these guards and men out there, and just work their way up to Queen, basically. And it's basically a way of just executing them. You know, I don't think he ever even mentions, you know, what they might get if they win, because just like, he's like, yeah, there's no way they will win. This is a basic execution. But he does actually, you know, he's saying like, if you happen to have a change of heart at any time, Luffy, we'll always let you join our crew. So it's also a double-edged thing. It's just like, well, either you die or we break you and you join our crew finally. So, you know, this, I love these tactics. It's just like, it's a more interesting way of keeping Luffy alive, because villains always do this thing where they're just like, why didn't they just kill off the hero? Why didn't they just kill off the hero? It's because Kaido recognizes just how much of an interesting asset Luffy could be, and he wants that. He wants that in his team. So they basically undo the cuffs, the sea-sewn cuffs that Luffy was bound in, and Raizo even sees this and it's just like, I went through all that trouble though. What is even that key for then, if they had a key themselves? And Luffy's excited because it's just like, you're basically letting us go free. Queen's just like, no, you still got that collar around your neck, bro. Good enough for practice. Like, full on like a Zoro line where I remember, I forget who he was fighting against, but he's just like, you're not even enough to, you know, satisfy my, you're not even enough to kill my boredom. It was Fishman Island when he was going up against that, octopus dude. So it's just like, everyone's so shocked to see him have Conqueror's Haki. But I love how Queen's just like, he's got Conqueror's Haki, eh? This is interesting. So Queen's on some alpha shit, honestly. And Kawamatsu's just like, you see the level of empathy and connection that certain people have with Hiyoro, because Kawamatsu's just like, Luffy Taro, I'm counting on you, just don't let old man Hyogoro die. So, you know, that shows the level of a bond and how much of an asset having Hyogoro on their side would actually be to the credibility of their cause if Luffy manages to get out with him alive. But then we cut off to the bathhouse, and it's just like, that's the first 10 pages, and I love when stuff like that happens, where it's just like within the first 10 pages it feels like you read through an entire chapter in and of itself. But we cut off to the bathhouses where we see the allied forces of X-Drake and Hawkins have come to the bathhouse. And at first, Nami, Shinobu, Robin, they're just like, oh my god, we thought we'd be safe here, of all places to come after us. But as it turns out, they're looking at people's ankles, looking for the reverse crescent moon. So at most, I think maybe he just recently arrived and then all the commotion went down. Because everyone's just like, oh, it's Soba Mask. And, you know, X-Drake hears this because he didn't want to go into the bathhouse. He wasn't about the finding the people with the reverse crescent moon thing. You know, he didn't really want to go in. His mission was to, you know, eliminate Soba Mask and all that. That was it. That was the end of it. That's all he was called out to do. But, you know, as soon as he hears that Soba Mask is inside, X-Drake goes rushing in. But as soon as he gets in and, you know, spies the, you know, situation, he almost passes out. And, you know, Hawkins is just like, dude, I didn't know you were like, why didn't you say something about you being unable to stand up in front of naked women and stuff, shit like that? But X-Drake's like, no, that's not why. Look, you're from the North Blue as well, you should have noticed it. And Hawkins realizes what he is calling out, and that's the fact that Sanji is dressed as Germa 66 is self-black. They are like Law, fanboys of the Sora Warrior of the Sea comic, which is the most insane thing possible. And it's literally because of this distraction to both of them, somehow Sanji manages to gather up Shinobu, Nami, and Robin, and he just bounces, he just flies away. And I'm just like, wait, I feel like we're missing a page or something. Did they just let him go? Were they just that taken aback? You're like, did they just let him go there and then? Because it's just like, oh my god, I really want to read this Sora Warrior of the Sea comic. If like even those two were fanboying enough to just, you know, let them go, because they are probably the most stoic out of any of the supernovas. It's just like, just just the idea of them just letting him go. It's just so confounding to such a degree, but it's hilarious in and of itself, because like any kind of gag done with these guys just takes you back because it's just not in their character. So it's just so interesting. But, you know, he goes over, you know, Sanji goes over with the girls about the fact that, you know, if they're looking for, you know, people with the reverse crescent moon, the ankle tattoos, that's bad news. But he also delivers even more bad news about the fact that Beppo and, you know, Sachi and Penguin have been captured. Because apparently they were trying to break Trafalgar out of some place, which doesn't make much sense because Trafalgar was never captured, or maybe they just didn't know that, but now they're in trouble as well. So if it's not one thing, it's the other. And on top of that, we're still not done. After all of that, we go and cut off to Zoro, who is confronting the person who stole his sword, which is apparently a weapons collector who had brought the sword of Ryuma's back to his grave in Wano, you know, because that's its rightful place. And he even says that, you know, if you don't, you know, get away from here or leave, you know, I'll take the swords that you have on your hips as well. So Zoro's just like, oh, so you're a weapons collector, huh? Well, we're in luck then. We were looking for some weapons. So, you know, whereas this guy is here to honor the memory of Ryuma, which was always a risk as soon as he entered Wano, you know, this guy is just, Zoro's just like, we needed weapons. I'll take yours. So they clash on the bridge, and that's where our story ends. And just, oof. Oh my god, just so much stuff going down here. You know, and it's just so many questions from here on out. Like, how is Luffy gonna escape, especially with Queen there? You know, he's no slouch, obviously. And like, how is Luffy gonna escape? Because now he has this, you know, collar on where if he leaves the ring, you know, off goes his head. You know, so how's he gonna get Hyogoro out of there? What's Raizo gonna do? Is the key that Raizo gained from the cell that should never be opened? And will he free his ally? And is this the key to his ally's cell? And will he use it to free him and help get Luffy and Hyogoro out of that place so that they might gain even more allies? Because that feels like what the setup is for. But then we have the situation with Beppo and the rest of them. It's just like, man, if we didn't have enough people we were trying to rescue as is, they had to get their asses captured. Oh my god. And then we have the situation with Hawkins and X-Ray. And I swear to god, if this ends up being the thing that turns them to the Alliance's side, I will die. I will literally die on the spot, because that is hilarious and silly all within the same breath, and I kinda love it. But that was great. And anyone who called out that Sanji would be at that bathhouse quick, fast, and in a hurry, you know, you called it, because I didn't think so. I was just like, man, wouldn't it be funny if he only arrived there after everything was all said and done? But he got himself a nice eyeful. So there you go, Sanji. You achieved your dreams. And then we have this situation with Zoro, and it's just like, who is this guy? You know, we don't know how powerful he could possibly be, because we've seen some mighty powerful people, but we have yet to honestly see Zoro in a fight that really mattered. You know, at most it was going up against Pika, and even that, it didn't feel like Zoro was having that tough of a time. Honestly, Zoro has been very, you know, unmatchable throughout the second half of One Piece, and I'm wondering when he's finally going to come against someone who really just brings his full force out of him. And who knows, maybe this weapon collector is the one, maybe not. Maybe we'll see that further down the line, but who can really say? But tell me your thoughts and speculation in the comment section below. How do you feel about this chapter as a whole and where it might be heading? What questions might be answered within the next few chapters. And hey, if you like my video, feel free to leave me a like, and if you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. Maybe tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below so I might better myself for future videos. And until then, hey, how about subscribing, because I will definitely be bringing you more super duper sumo-rific chapter reviews of One Piece. But until then, keep your swords close. You never know who might steal them. Until then, mata ne.